My name is Brandon Small. I am a fourth-year senior here at Miami, and I am majoring in political science and English literature. No fats, no femmes, no Asians. These words still rang in my ears as I recently and begrudgingly downloaded Tinder again after deactivating it for the first time in years. Despite hearing these clearly awful sentiments online before, I had personally never experienced anything as bad. The COVID-19 pandemic forced us all to recede to our homes and reimagine our relationships with technology. And with that, we began having to rely on our technology for interacting socially, going to school, taking meetings. And with this was one of my only options for meeting people, I decided to try the app. And to my surprise, it was actually going pretty well. I was getting a good number of matches and having great conversations. That was the case until I received a message from this one guy that I was super excited to have matched with. He was attractive, went to my school, and seemingly had an interesting personality from what his bio describes. And to my excitement, he messaged me first. But my excitement quickly turned into confusion when I saw what he had sent me. What are you? What am I? Confused, I asked him to clarify. Where are you from? What race are you? Oh, okay, we're going there. I told him that I was biracial, half black and half white, and asked him why it mattered. Nice, sorry man, I'm only into white guys. I could be down to experiment though. Is what they say about black guys true? And once again, my interest in having a Tinder account diminished. I deactivated my account once again soon after. Today I want to talk about beauty. I think that we can all agree that there are things with an objective essence of beauty. Flowers, for example, are commonly seen as beautiful. My favorites are hydrangeas. This is something that we learn from a very young age is beautiful, and we've never really been challenged on it. So let me try to now. I want you to imagine the most stunning photo of a landscape you've ever seen. For me, it's watching the sunset over the beaches of Hawaii. Have it in your head? Now try to convince yourself that this is average, no more interesting than your backyard or a local park. It's hard, right? That's because there are things that are socially, culturally, and structurally agreed upon to be beautiful, and it is extremely difficult to subvert those. But what makes a person beautiful? Well, in the same way that we are taught to know that flowers are beautiful, we are also socialized to view certain human attributes as attractive. This is perhaps most evident in how we perceive celebrities. Typically, the celebrities seen as the most beautiful or attractive would be those who are visibly thin or physically fit, have a youthful look, perfect skin and teeth, and, with some exceptions, are usually white. The emergence of dating preferences is one that, while problematic, is somewhat understandable. We, especially now, are living in a culture contingent on performing presentations of beauty, sex, and desire. When we are constantly shown similar archetypes of beauty in media, or when the 19th muscular white man in a row is chosen as the sexiest man alive by People magazine, we naturally associate this type of person as being objectively beautiful, the standard for attractiveness and desire. And in our growing age of technology and communication, these perceptions are becoming increasingly dominant over individual perceptions of beauty and worth. I mean, take Tinder as an example. Did you know that your Tinder profile has a hotness score attached to it? An article from Vox writes that essentially the app used an ELO rating system, which is the same method used to calculate the skill levels of chess players. You rose in those ranks based on how many people swiped right or liked you, but that was weighted based on who the swiper was. The more right swipes that person had, the more their right swipe on you meant for your score. Tinder would then serve people with similar scores to each other more often, assuming that people whom the crowd had a similar opinions of would be in approximately the same tier of what they called desirability. But the issue here is that immediate perceptions of beauty are subjective, though they are also rooted in socialized perceptions of desirability. Thus, the Tinder algorithm effectively disadvantages people of color, of larger sizes, disabled people, etc. The most beautiful white people will naturally be pushed to the front of the line and swiped on more, while those with less desirable traits will only appear once all other options have been expunged. Dating apps like Tinder perpetuate Eurocentric standards for beauty and actually limit connective opportunities for marginalized people. This is especially true in the gay community, and as someone who is a gay man and a person of color, I am no stranger to the dark side of preferences. Gay men exist at a very interesting intersection, both enjoying the privilege of identifying as a male in a patriarchal society, while also largely being othered due to their sexualities. Psychotherapist Mitchell J. Wood comments in his research that one of his gay male clients asked him, "Why is it that every time I see a beautiful man, I feel self-loathing instead of pleasure?" Gay men have become one of the faces of body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, which refers to an excessive focus on one's perceived physical flaws, ranging from body shape to skin clearness to general attractiveness. And while this disorder generally affects men and women equally, the effects that it has on especially queer men differ and are oftentimes invisible or untreated. In a study conducted by the American Psychology Association, men with BDD were more likely than women to be concerned with issues involving muscle, and they were less likely to work due to the distress that BDD caused within their lives. Additionally, the National Eating Disorder Association, or NEDA, has found that research shows that beginning as early as 12, gay, lesbian, and bisexual teens may be at higher risk of binge eating and purging than heterosexual peers. So if we take these issues, if we reflect upon the ways in which there seems to be a shared sense of bodily trauma and stress within queer spaces, why is it that these can still be so wildly exclusionary? The fact that no fats, no femmes, no Asians has been popularized on apps like Tinder and Grindr is exemplary of the internalization of each of these things. Gay men being held to, and subsequently holding themselves and others to, standards of fitness, performative masculinity, and whiteness. That last part is especially important. It's not enough to have a perfect body. It's not enough to be masculine, whatever that is. Because what good are these things if you're anything but white? When we say things like, I only date white guys, or I'm not into Latinos, what does that say? Is it really a preference? The popular narrative by members of white, privileged classes would seem to think so, but this is reflective of the oppressive beauty standards and body politics that have quite literally, mentally, and physically oppressed people of color, fat people, and those who express gender differently. These statements are racially charged and exclusionary. Even in just saying that you will only date blank type of people, you are also simultaneously saying that you will not date others specifically because of their race. And while couples are becoming increasingly interracial, they still only compose of 10.2% in the United States. And research shows that white people are the least likely to seriously date people of color, yet are the most likely to fetishize them. The number of matches that marginalized people get on Tinder is hardly their most pressing issue. But these preferences are reflective of larger structural forms of othering that do have major, long-lasting effects on self-perception and self-worth. For so long, I hated myself for not looking the way that most people would agree was hot or beautiful. But what I realized this time downloading Tinder was that I will never be that. I can't ever be like that. And it's not because I can't work out more and have a perfectly flat stomach or a six-pack. It's because I'm not, nor will I ever, be white. And I cannot, nor will I ever, confine myself to a box of rigid masculinity for the sole purpose of desirability. And so, at best, I'll be a fetish. When we talk about racial consciousness, it's sometimes perceived as though this responsibility falls solely on those from privileged backgrounds. And while this is especially the case for them, we all share a responsibility in developing an intersectional mindset. The LGBTQIA+ community serves as an example of how even a highly marginalized space can perpetuate things like racism and the further marginalization of others. And so what we need to ask ourselves is, even if I am marginalized, how can I best equip myself with the tools of allyship and avoid marginalizing or othering those around me?